I had a job interview this morning. Even I forgot I had one this morning. It went fine, you know? Just a normal, average online interview. Lasted like 10 minutes. Which to some is a pretty bad sign that it lasted so quickly. Alright, so I don't have anything to talk about today. But instead, I figured today what I should do is go over the rest of my school notes. Because I have not looked at it since previously. And we are now into week 2 material, which I'm not even I'm only halfway done week 1. But not right now. Hold on. So earlier today, No Shame in Feeding went live for like the first time in a year. He streamed some Bakugan on the Wii, and he should totally send me the file so I can post it and archive it. Alright, so before I get started, there's, I don't know, life is a little rough right now. Life is a little, I don't know what's going on in life anymore. Life is... So previously, you know, I was just joking around, and then it kind of became more serious, and now it seems like, now I don't even know what to think anymore. So I mentioned beforehand, previously, that, you know, my sister and her husband are trying to have a kid, but they just can't seem to have one, so they've been going to the doctor to double check and see what's going on, why it's so hard. Well, as it turns out, I'm not going to get into all of the details. As it turns out, the issues may not mostly, or only be on my sister's part, you know, with my sister's body and her health, but it also seems like there's an issue with him as well. Well, in a way, it's kind of, you know, seemingly they did a test and he doesn't have any, if you know what I mean. He just doesn't seem to have any. Like, how could this have happened? the issue's not entirely on my sister's end with her body and her health. It seems like something's going on with him as well. So I was kind of joking around beforehand when I was saying, oh, if my parents want grandkids, it may have to come from me. And now it's like, oh, that might actually be the case. That might actually be serious. As if I didn't have any more pressure on me. Oh man, now I can't die. And if I were to have a kid, I especially can't die. Gotta raise my kid, teach my kid how to grow up and survive this world. As if I don't have a ton of pressure on me already to, find someone and preferably put a ring on that finger before my grandfather is no longer of this world. But now there's also the pressure of, well, son, we want grandkids. And, this is rough news. How could this have happened, The one person my sister chose in this entire world, the one person she married, and this is the case. I'm not gonna mention how my sister kind of fumbled her previous, her ex, after a 6-year relationship. I'm not gonna tell my sister's whole story. Even though it's a wonderful story, it's more of like a case study of what not to do, but I digress. So now we don't know what to do. We're just moving forward in life, taking it one step at a time. The two of them, they're going to continue to go see the doctor, see what they can do about this. If there is anything, because, not gonna lie to you guys, my sister, she's wanted motherhood for a very long time now, and to get this news, it's kind of heartbreaking. It's kind of soul crushing. And on top of that, well, my entire family is concerned, honestly pretty concerned about the fact that the two of these two, they got married relatively quickly, and this news surfacing, how long can this honestly last between the two of them? And also, I'm sure he's noticed as well, ever since my sisters got married, she's kind of lost her mind. Even my parents know, and I sure as hell know, my sister has kind of gone off the deep end ever since she got married. So let's see, even my parents and I are all joking. Let's see how long he can put up with her. But anyways, that aside, well, that's not the only thing kind of going awry in life right now. Ooh, I have a big jug of water right here, which I drank only around half of today, and I need to finish the rest of this half by tonight, because, ooh, my goodness, a lot of blood came out today. A lot of blood came out, so I need a lot more water. Lots more water. My mother, hearing all of this unfortunate news, is really urging me to stay healthy. Not just because she wants a grandkid, but also because just in general, for me to stay in good health, for me to stay healthy. And for the most part, I think I am relatively healthy for the most part, if not for this glaring issue that just keeps on resurfacing, as well as, being way too heavy. Anyways, I don't know what's going on in life anymore. Life is just full of so many issues. And we're not even talking small issues, too. We're talking massive issues. Like, genuine issues that need a lot of time and effort to solve. And it's kind of like, what did we do to deserve this? Well, that's not speaking on my behalf. I've done a lot of things. But, like, not them. You know? Well, while they're still young-ish, they're gonna have a good time, because guess what? BTS is coming to Toronto, I'm not sure when. And, well, guess who bought tickets? Well, of course, you know damn well my sister bought tickets, or more correctly, she made her husband buy the tickets. Take a guess. How much you think those tickets cost? Did they cost 100? 500? 1,000? How much do you think those concert tickets cost? 5,200 plus. Granted, for 4 tickets. But, like, holy shit. 5K. 5K for tickets. That blows the 1K balls out of the water. Oh, also, today in Pokemon Go, I finally got a shiny that I have been after. I have wanted for a very long time, for literal years. I finally got a shiny Zorua. Sadly, it wasn't double XL, because previously there was this exploit or bug in the game where if you have a double XL Pumpkaboo as your buddy, every Zorua you catch will be double XL. I tried that for this event, but it seems like they patched it. So, damn. No double XL shiny for me. And I tried. Back when the exploit was still a thing in the game, I tried. But RNG just wasn't on my side. Oh, also, did you guys hear? Around my area, tomorrow, it's gonna be like -20. Oh boy. Better strap in, folks. Better put on those layers. Tomorrow it's gonna be like -20 from what I hear. Now, I've already explained this before. I prefer the cold, but you know, there's only so much cold I can handle. Because even nowadays, I do think it's a little bit chilly. Like, it is actually a little bit cold. But the moment I put on a second layer, I wear anything more than just a t-shirt, it's like, oh, now it's too hot. This extra layer is just too warm. It's too cold to just be in a t-shirt, but it's too warm to be in anything more than a t-shirt. What a life. There's also rumors going around right now for Pokemon Go. There's been data mines that they're introducing a brand new feature to the remote raids where you need to pay more to do remote raids. You need to pay even more to do them. There's gonna be this like brand new feature on top of the remote raid passes, seemingly maybe specifically for mega raids. It's kind of like remote doing the Gigantamaxes. You need the remote raid pass and the max particle, so that's two different things you gotta pay for. It seems like they're gonna revamp the current system and add on top of it. Add another thing you need to pay for to do the current system. Well, it's not like I really do remote raiding anyways. Only cases I do remote raiding is if it's for shiny I really want, like Genesect or Deoxys. Everything else, though, not really. I mean, there is something I want to remote raid and get shiny the next time it comes out in raids, and that being Stakataka, since that's exclusive to the other side of the world. Over here, we get Blacephalon. Over there, they get Stakataka. So, no way for me to get it shiny unless I pay to do it. But we'll just have to wait and see. Also, Solgaleo and Lunala is coming back to raids soon. Fantastic. You know me, I want me the floors for them. So I can fuse them to my Necrozmas. Oh, did you guys see? Earlier today, we got the Season 4 trailer for Invincible. This season is looking to be epic. It's looking to be darker. It's looking to be, well, better animated than Season 3 was. You know how stacked the period from March to April will be? And I mentioned this last time. That period's gonna be really stacked. Not only are we getting Invincible Season 4, The Boy Season 5, Daredevil Born Again Season 2, but also From Season 4. Yay! Remember me watching From? Honestly, I don't know what took them so long to pump out Season 4, considering this show's not exactly the highest budget show, or even the highest, the show that requires the most post-production. You know, this show's not exactly heavy on CGI. In fact, we've discussed this. They don't use CGI, at least when they don't need to. Oh, right. Earlier today, we got the trailer, or the overview trailer for Mario Wonder on the Switch 2. I don't care about that. What I do care about are the amiibos that they're releasing with it. When did Mario Wonder come out? Mario Wonder came out over 2 years ago. October 2023. Jeez, it's been that long. I never got the game. And I honestly, I wasn't too interested in it. And even back then, I was kind of surprised. No amiibos for this? No Elephant Mario amiibo? I felt like that would have been an easy no-brainer. But, no, now there is. Now there's gonna be an Elephant Mario amiibo. Took them a while. Maybe a little bit too long, but hey. Alright. And what day are the Mario Galaxy amiibos coming out? Okay, no, they're not coming out the same day. They're coming out like a week apart. The Wonder amiibos come out March 26th. The Mario Galaxy amiibos come out April 2nd. And I just took a look. Yup, exactly a week apart. I care more for the Galaxy amiibos, if I'm gonna be honest, but I'm still gonna pick up the Mario Wonder amiibos. So I spoke to that friend of mine who recommended From to me. Remember, he also recommended Oshinoko to me, which I haven't watched yet. So I just talked to him. I told him, like, I'm so glad you stopped watching, because that left me with not a soul to discuss it with. And then I'm like, alright, so let me get this straight. So, I don't get to discuss a show you recommended. Wait, no, that's not what I said. Hold on, let me get this straight. So, I don't get to discuss a show with you that you recommended. Nope. You get to discuss with me a show that you recommended. Yes. Exactly, that's how it works. He recommended From and Oshinoko to me. Well, From's not even out yet. And Oshinoko, he just quit that. He straight up just quit that shit. Leaving me with not a damn soul on this planet to discuss it with. So, yeah, let me get this straight. You get to discuss with me shows that you recommended to me. But I don't get to discuss shows you recommended. You know, something I kind of wanted to do today was basically list out all the shows that I've watched, or not all of them, because I'm probably gonna miss a show or two, especially if I write them all down. Be like, oh, I forgot this show. Or, oh yeah, I watched that as well. Because I brought this up to some friends of mine, and they're just like, how many shows have you watched? Like, Jesus. I'm just like, a ton. A lot. So many. And I even told them too, you know how many shows I got coming up? But yeah, you know, do you know why? Do you know why I've kind of, you know, do you know why I discuss shows here that I watch? It's because I don't have a single person to discuss them with. Not a single person. All the shows I watch, nobody else watches, so I have no one to discuss them with. No one to share exciting moments with, no one to theorize with, no one. And, you know, the amount of shows I've covered while being here is just the surface. It's just what I'm watching at the time. Just imagine how many shows I've seen in the past. So I have not a damn soul on this planet to discuss anything with. You know, when a big moment happens, I want to celebrate. I want to express like, yo, wasn't that moment awesome? What does that mean coming up? No. No one to share that with, so it's like, oh, I guess I just have to keep it to myself. Because nobody else watches it. And certain shows that I've been going over, well, I was recommended them. I was recommended, Chainsaw Man I was recommended. Granted, I was probably gonna watch Chainsaw Man sooner or later at some point. And whether or not the shows were good or bad, nobody watched them. At least not around my circle, so I have no one to discuss them with. Nobody watched Welcome to Derry. Nobody watched The Penguin. Nobody watched The Sandman. I don't have anyone to discuss this with. The awesome moments, the theorizing on what could happen next. So that's why I talk about them here. And, well, isn't it so nice that when you get recommended a show, the person who recommended it to you just quits it, leaving you in the dust? Oh man, there's still so many notes here to go over. And I'm kind of betting that, given how stacked the coming months will be, I'm gonna bet you folks that I have no one to discuss those with either. Invincible, The Boys, Daredevil, no one. I mean, what about the shows I have coming up to watch? Nobody else is gonna watch Wonder Man. No one else is gonna watch Monarch. When is Invincible? March 18th. You know, if you were wondering how many shows I've seen, you have to keep in mind, when I say a show, it could range from, like, a show having a dozen seasons to a show that only lasted one season, you know? Like, it still counts. You know, just me talking about Walking Dead alone counts for, like, 7 shows. Let me see. Walking Dead has 6 spin-offs, doesn't it? There's Fear, World Beyond, Tales, and then there's the 3 spin-offs. Dead City, Daryl Dixon, The Ones Who Live. So yeah, that's 6 spin-offs plus the main show. So that's 7 TV shows right there. I mean, granted, Tales was only 6 episodes, but still, it counts as a separate show. So that alone is 7 shows. What about all the Arrowverse shows? Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, Legends, Black Lightning, Batwoman. That alone is another 6. And then what about all the adjacent ones? Stargirl, Lucifer, Titans, Doom Patrol. You know, I also watched Swamp Thing. What about Marvel? So many of their, you know, one-off shows are also the old shows. All the Netflix shows, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter. That's just those 3 categories. What about the miscellaneous shows? You know, Welcome to Derry falls under miscellaneous. So does, well, actually no, Penguin, Sandman, those fall under DC. Well, Hazbin Hotel falls under miscellaneous. And you know, it's like, what about some old shows? Old sitcoms that I've seen in the past? Like, good luck, Charlie. Arcane counts as miscellaneous. So, yeah, I have watched a lot of television programs, dear viewers. And majority of them, no one watches them, no one to discuss it with, no one to theorize with, no one to have fun with. No one to discuss the next Walking Dead death, no one to discuss the next arc for Marvel, no one to discuss, you know, wasn't that DC moment super cool, the crossovers with the characters? Oh shit, that's right. My Dress Up Darling Season 2 came out a while ago and I still haven't watched that. Well, I haven't even seen Spy X Family Season 3. I'm quite behind. Yeah, anime falls under miscellaneous unless you want to categorize every anime just under anime, of which there is a lot. You know, it's moments like these that kind of make me glad. Certain franchises I never got into, like Star Wars. I've only ever seen one Star Wars movie. It was great in the past, I'm sure, but ever since Kathleen Kennedy, I've been hearing nothing but trash. So it's like, maybe it's a good thing I never got into Star Wars. Because if I did, I would indeed watch everything. But, you know, now that it's been tainted by Kennedy's hands, I don't really know if I want to go back and start from the beginning. Especially with stuff like, what was it, The Acolyte? Was that the one that was canceled? Oh, speaking of Walking Dead, you want to hear something crazy that I heard lately? That I pieced together. I haven't really seen anyone else piece together. So I saw this video by, who was it by again? Wait, who was the video by? Let me see. Okay, I saw this video by Magnus Robert. The video is, I solved a Walking Dead mystery. The mysterious Grimes family dog. You know, throughout the entire Walking Dead, there was never a mention that the Grimes family had a pet dog. You know, the proof is kind of in the props, because when the show ended and they auctioned off a bunch of props, even if they were never seen on screen during the show, the props are still there. So we do know that the Grimes family had a pet dog before the apocalypse, and it was supposedly such a mystery for so long. What was the dog's name? Well, in this video by Magnus Robert, in the season 8 episode, after Carl died and Rick is reading Carl's letter, well, first of all, the letter says, I remember Mom, I remember Codger. And in the video, even the video is just like, who the fuck is Codger? We've never heard of a codger in the entire Walking Dead. Well, that's the name of the dog. The Grimes family had a Dalmatian dog named Codger. Huh. Fascinating. I've watched this show since, I don't remember, maybe season 3 or 4 is when I hopped onto The Walking Dead. So I've been watching this show for 12, 13 years. I followed the franchise for 12 to 13 years. Never knew they had a dog named Codger. I watched this episode when it aired, and it completely flew over my head. The fact that in Carl's letter, he mentioned a name, Codger, and I never thought, who the fuck is Codger? So that's an interesting, I spat just now. That's an interesting little lore bit. The Grimes family dog was named Codger. Obviously, we never see Codger in the entire show. We didn't even know the Grimes had a dog until the auction for the props happened. So it kind of seems like Codger passed away before the apocalypse happened. Which, I'll just say it from my perspective. If the apocalypse were to ever happen, I would be even more grateful that my boys got to live a full, happy life and passed away before the apocalypse happened. They didn't need to see how ugly the world is. So if I was in their position, I would be grateful that Codger got to live a full, happy life before the hellscape that was the zombie apocalypse. If the apocalypse ever were to happen, I would be even more grateful that my boys got to live a full life and passed before any of that happened. But aside from the name reveal Codger, Carl's letter actually also said he had an Aunt Evie. No, not Eevee the Pokemon. Evie spelled E-V-I-E. Carl had an Aunt Evie. And yeah, that's also something that completely flew over my head when this episode aired, 8 years ago? So, Carl had an Aunt Evie at one point. We'd never heard of an Aunt Evie until this episode. It's unclear if Evie is Rick or Lori's sister. I'm going to assume Lori's sister, just because Rick in the comics had a brother. Never mentioned a sister. So, for simplicity's sake, I'm going to assume this is Lori's sister. So, Carl's mother's sister. You know what's crazy, though? Later on, we actually did meet an Evie character. Later on, in Tales of the Walking Dead, we met the character Evie, played by Olivia Munn. The first episode of Tales with Terry Crews. And I'm starting to think that might be Evie. Aunt Evie. For a plethora of reasons, not only because they share a name, but something The Walking Dead does is they're very... What's the word I'm looking for? They don't pick out names. They don't have similar or the same names very often. I'm sure there's probably a one-off background character at some point that had the same name as another character. But to my knowledge, we've only ever had one instance where a character shared the same name with another character, and that being Bob. Bob Stookie, after he died, we met Officer Bob, just to give Sasha even more heartbreak. To my knowledge, that was the only instance we've ever seen a character in this world share a name with someone else. You know, we've never had another Rick, we've never had another Carl, we've never had another Daryl. Hell, to my knowledge, I've only heard my name once in the entire franchise, and that was that Scottish prick at the end of Daryl Dixon Season 2. So, The Walking Dead is very picky with their names. We never really ever hear the same name twice with two different characters. We never met another Eugene, we never met another Abraham, we never met another Glenn, we never met another Sasha, we never met another Rosita. We never met another Aaron, Tara, Maggie. No one. No one has the same name. So the fact that... And also the fact that they're spelled the same too. In this letter, it's spelled E-V-I-E. And in Tales of the Walking Dead, it's spelled the exact same way. Now, obviously they can't spell Evie the way we know. But still, the fact that the name is the same really makes me start to think, was that Aunt Evie that we saw? Another thing that kind of makes me think, even though this doesn't really make sense given what they gave us in the episode, in Tales Episode 1, we saw them go to Terminus, or what was the set piece for Terminus, but they retconned it, saying it was a different place, has nothing to do with Terminus, but whatever. Let's say it was Terminus, because it looked pretty much the same, because it was the same set piece. If Evie and Joe made it... Oh yeah, Joe. If Evie and Joe did make it to Terminus, and that means they're close enough to Terminus. Rick, Carl, everyone else, they were close enough to get to Terminus. Granted, with some traveling, of course. Oh yeah, that's right, Joe. Never mind, 2 cases. We did have 2 different... You know what? No, 3 cases now. To my knowledge, we've had 3 Joes. We've had Tails Joe, played by Terry Crews. We've had Claimer's Joe. And we've had... No, wait, no, that was it. I'm thinking of Proctor John, not Proctor Joe. Never mind. So, 2 cases. We've had 2 characters named Bob and 2 characters named Joe. Both of them relatively common names. You know, Glenn's a common name. Abraham, Eugene, Maggie. Never heard another soul in this world have their names. But yeah, I'm starting to think. Is the Evie we saw in Tales Aunt Evie related to the Grimes family? I can't remember. Maybe there was an instance Lori mentioned she had a sister. I can't remember. Maybe there was a case, then again, maybe I'm just coping. I wonder what Chris Hardwick is up to these days. I don't think Talking Dead is on anymore. Can you guys believe we're in the 10-year mark since Glenn died? Yeah, the Season 7 premiere happened October 23rd, 2016. When it's October, 9 months from now, almost to the day, Today's the 22nd of January. 9 months from now, it will have been 10 years. Holy shit. 10 years since Glenn died. I remember where I was that day too, 10 years ago. My grandparents were here to visit. And instead, I went to the basement to watch the episode. The moment the death scene happened, my dad came downstairs to yell at me. Yelling at me saying, I can never watch anything decent. Look at the content you're watching. It's so violent. It's such a bad influence. Why can't you ever watch anything decent? Oh, you want to hear something else that I'm starting to think as well? I'm starting to think that, you know, maybe Denji and Power. I'm starting to maybe think the two of them, perhaps, even if they don't realize it yet. Because Denji and Reze, we saw how that ended up. We don't know about Denji and Makima yet, but at the moment, I'm kind of not rooting for that anymore. Their movie date kind of ruined that for me. I don't know, man. It's like, I'm all down for not being satisfied with a bad movie. But Makima, she was just movie after movie, blank face, no reaction. And then, at the very end, when they did see a good movie, she was still straight face, no reaction, but just with tears. And we also know that something's up with Makima. So, I wonder if Denji's gonna realize that Makima kinda ain't shit. I'm starting to get the vibe that Makima, her kindness is just a facade. But Denji and Power, we've seen the two of them, they get along to a degree quite nicely. Even if the two of them won't admit it. I mean, the more time that goes on, the more time that passes, the closer they're going to get. Even if they don't want to admit it themselves. What really drove this home is when I saw the English dub of this scene. It was the very end of the Chainsaw Man movie. It was the post-credit scene where Power barges into the diner, the cafe. In the English dub, the owner is just like, Denji, Reze was way out of your league. Don't worry, Denji. You'll find someone perfect for you one day. And then immediately comes in Power, as if just saying to us, telling it to our face, it's going to be her. Couldn't help but notice the wording there, you know? I concur. Did you even hear what I said? Or did you have to dip out for a moment? What was the last thing you said? I was saying how I'm starting to maybe think Denji and Power might be the end game instead of Denji and Makima, because I've been wow, I gotta say it all again, huh? Because I'm starting to notice. Last thing I heard was the Walking Dead stuff. Because I'm starting to notice that the two of them have quite good chemistry, even if the characters themselves don't admit it. Especially after the movie, the movie date Makima... What? The movie date with Makima scene? I don't know. It's that scene in particular that made me kind of realize Makima kind of ain't shit. Because I literally just said this. Whoops. I literally just said this. You know, I'm down to watch bad movies. You know, I have reactions to bad movies, but Makima, no. Film after film was just straight-faced, no reaction. At the very end, when they watched a good film, she was still straight-faced, no reaction, but just with tears. You know, I think maybe Denji also kind of realized Makima kind of ain't shit. That she's kind of not only basic, but I don't know if Denji knows yet that Makima... Well, she's very secretive. She has something else going on with her. Denji and Power, on the other hand, the two of them have quite great chemistry. Quite a dynamic duo. Or a chaotic duo. And like I said, the more time that passes, their bond is only going to grow stronger. Saw this online. Makima's date with them not interacting, while Reise's date was them hang out and having fun at the festival. Yeah, I mentioned that too when I went over the movie. I could smell the plot away. The reason they did that was just to show the contrast between a date with Makima and a date with Reise. How it's like, Denji, would you rather have this or this? And like I just said, the scene that really drove it home for me was watching the dub of the post-credit scene for the movie, where the shop owner was just like, don't worry, Denji. She was way out of your league, but don't worry, you'll find someone one day. And then in comes Power, just plowing through the door, barging in, almost as if telling it to your face like it's gonna be her. So much is gonna happen in season 2. I'll believe it when I see it. But who knows when that comes out? animation takes a long time. Can't wait for them to fight Santa. I'm gonna bookmark that comment in my mind, and I'm gonna see if that actually amounts to anything when season 2 or whatever comes out. Oh, you know what? Speaking of Santa, you know what clips I've been watching a lot of lately? Not The Simpsons anymore. I've been watching a lot of Futurama clips. Ever since Futurama's revival, I haven't really kept up with the show, but I really should. Futurama is such an underrated gem. The jokes are so in your face that you just gotta love them. And, you know, the robot Santa, just mwah. I don't know, I kind of feel like Futurama is funnier in compilation form instead of just watching the actual episode. Like, when the jokes are out of context in a compilation, it's better. It's probably the smartest big Western cartoon. We don't have a lot of those these days. We have stuff similar, you know, like adult animations, but, you know, they just have their own flair to it. Redeemed a highlighted message. Cool. Nice. I don't think I have much more to talk about tonight. Is there anything else for me to go over? Oh yeah, there's also this meme going around, this Jujutsu Kaisen meme. I don't know what it is, but I've been seeing everyone animate over it. You know, there's some Walking Dead rumors going on right now of like maybe Beth will return. Now that obviously can't be the case because she's dead. But Emily Kinney might return for Dead City Season 3 as like a dream sequence, a hallucination, what have you. I think that'd be cool. It's not the first time we've seen hallucinations or dream sequences where characters have returned. I mean, just look at Rick's final episode. We saw Sasha return, Herschel, Shane. Those characters all died long ago. You know, it's it still blows my mind how badly the writers, the creators, and Scott Gimple completely fumbled Walking Dead near the end, like entirely. They made some of the poorest decisions that even to this day the fans still despise. Obviously, number one choice on that list is killing off Carl. That was easily the worst decision in Walking Dead history. To this day, people still hate it. You know, for years now, Robert Kirkman has been saying he wanted to do an animated Walking Dead show that is more faithful to the comic books. But I think there's some sort of legal issue with, like, Skybound, so that's why it hasn't been created yet. God damn legal issues! I would love that. An animated show that is more faithful to the comics. I mean, that would mean Daryl doesn't exist. That also means certain deaths happen, certain characters don't die. Kind of like Sophia. And it's also, now that the show's over, now we can take a look back. It's such a tragedy how Fear the Walking Dead played out. The first 3 seasons with Dave Erickson, masterpieces. Season 4 onward, what happened? Ian and Andrew, what did you do? But that's history. That's how things played out, and we can't change it. I mean, it's not just exclusive to The Walking Dead. I'm sure other shows have made mistakes that really, really wish they could have taken back. Which, you know, I don't know why it's so hard to do. You would think it'd be easy. Well, I say it's easy. It's easier said than done, obviously. If you made a decision in a show's story that just is despised by everyone, just reshoot it and re-air it. Yes, that would cost more money, production time, yada yada yada. But like, just redo it. It's not that hard. You can do what RVB did. What's RVB? Retcon all the seasons people didn't like by saying it was a simulation. Red versus blue. What the hell is red versus blue? Oh! Oh, this one. Really? They did that? I didn't know that. Oh yeah, I forgot this show existed. Anyway, so like... And also, that's another thing I don't understand about shows. Shows, films. During the final movie, they made all the season 15 plus all simulations. Wow, that may have retconned the story, but it never retconned people's wasted time. But yeah, you would think it'd be easier than ever to do in this day and age, where everything is online, streaming services, yada yada yada. You know, never mind Blu-rays or what have you. Like, if you have shows and movies that have a continuity error somewhere or some sort of issue, why not just edit it and then just post it back up onto your streaming service or whatever platform you have it on? Why is that so hard? It'll cost money to go back and re-edit it, and it's not worth businesses. But like, wouldn't you think it'd be much easier to do that now than ever? I mean, in a way they did do that. Didn't they do that with Miss Marvel? They made the Statue of Liberty in that show from green to copper to match the continuity with Spider-Man No Way Home. See? How hard was that? There was a continuity error, fix it, and repost it. Why is that so hard? It's kind of like, you know, the Avengers Endgame continuity errors with Giant Man in the background with the Leviathan, though I don't think that's too big of an issue. In my head canon, Scott went into the van, came out to help fight a little bit, then went back in. It's not that big a deal. No, the other continuity error I'm thinking of is the tacos that Hulk handed Scott. He grabbed one, but then he handed two. I noticed that my very first time watching the film. You know, in my head, the way I explain it is he went to pick up one. Oh, you wanted two? Okay, let me pick up two. Here you go. But all of that in between was cut out. Now, that's just me making excuses, but in my head canon, to explain the little issue, that's what I have in mind. anything else to go over. What is this video I see here on my recommended? Chainsaw Man and the Male Loneliness Epidemic by Lays, posted over a month ago. 20,000 views. 27 minutes long. Well, I've said this before, and I will stick with it. You know, I've seen a lot of people online mention the male loneliness epidemic, which, as embarrassing as it is to say, yep, You know who I blame for this? Hollywood. And by extension, some gaming outlets. Or not gaming outlets, but gaming companies. Ever since the woke bullshit that they've been injecting into all stuff for like a decade now, I've been seeing that as doing more harm than good. Kathleen Kennedy. Notice how this the whole time I'm just looking for things to go over so I don't have to go over my notes, my schoolwork. I am a professional at procrastinating. It is my downfall. Alright, fine. Let me go over some of the material before I... well, let's face it. If I'm not going to go over here, I'm not going to go over it on my own time. Alright, last time... wasted so much time tonight, too. Last time we ended on slide 35 out of 70, so smack dab in the middle. Let's see. Constant water flow, bracket velocity can wear out pipes. Hot water recirculating systems can prematurely wear out thin wall. Bracket type M. Copper piping because water is constantly flowing through the pipes. High pressure or increased velocity can cause premature wear and damage / leaks to fixtures. Bracket excessive velocity wears out pipes. Another issue related to high water pressure is water velocity. In residential systems, the relatively small pipe diameters, typically 1/2 and 3/4 inch, have a practical limit to the velocity of water that can move through them. The water that moves too quickly can wear pipes prematurely, particularly the thin wall, type M, copper piping, which is widely used. Some plumbing authorities feel that the typical water velocities of 8 to 10 feet per second are too high, and that more appropriate design velocity is above 4 feet per second. Larger diameter piping allows for lower velocities. You can move the same number of gallons per minute with lower velocities through larger pipes. However, this discussion carries us beyond the standard home inspection, and we should leave it there. You won't be able to judge water velocity during a typical home inspection. Oh my god, there's so much to read. Volume of water being moved. The more water that flows through the pipes, the greater the pressure drop. The garden sprayer analogy. As more fixtures are being used, the pressure and flow at each fixture will decrease. The more that flows, the worse it gets. The water supply available to any faucet is reduced if water is flowing elsewhere in the house. The shower may work perfectly until someone flushes the toilet. Didn't I read this already? No, this is slide 37. In almost any house, if you get enough other fixtures flowing, you adversely affect the performance of the shower. This makes perfect sense if we go back to the water supply profile curve. The more water that flows through the pipes, the greater the pressure drop. If you flow enough water through the pipes, the pressure will drop to a point where it cannot push water out through the shower nozzle effectively and may not be able to keep the shower diverter open. In severe cases, the shower diverter will relax and water will come out the tub spout, but not the shower head. Look at a garden hose. More flow means less pressure. Less flow means higher pressure. Consider a garden hose. If we take a garden hose without a nozzle on the end of it, water will plop out of the hose and fall to the ground. We wouldn't be able to spray someone 15 feet away with the water coming out of the hose. We would, however, be able to fill up a bucket fairly quickly. Reduced flow reduces... Reduced flow reduces... Reduced flow reduces friction loss. There we go. If we put our thumb over the end of the hose and just let a little bit of water by, we are reducing the flow rate, GPM, and raising the pressure at the nozzle. Because only a small amount of water is moving past every point along the pipe, there is considerably less pressure loss due to friction. Less friction means more pressure at end of pipe. Now we have lots of pressure at the end of the hose, and we can easily squirt someone 15 to 20 feet away. Pause on that. We could get our thumb to completely stop the water flow. The static pressure at the end of the garden hose would be the same as the city water pressure at the street. Pressure not important for filling buckets. From this example, it's easy to see that the larger the flow rate, the lower the pressure. If we wanted to fill up the bucket we talked about, we're better off to leave our finger off the end of the hose. We'll get more gallons per minute flowing out of the hose. Bracket at a lower pressure. If we put some liquid soap in the bucket and want to create enough force to make it bubble, we can put our finger back over the end of the hose. This won't deliver water as quickly in terms of gallons per minute, but will deliver water at a high pressure. Pressure important for showers, but not baths. This analogy works very well in the bathroom as well. The bathroom. To prepare a bath, we would use the tub sprout because it delivers more gallons per minute and the tub will fill up quickly. We wouldn't want to have a shower under the tub sprout, though, because there isn't much pressure. Showers are high pressure, low flow. Using the shower head delivers water at a high pressure but low flow rate. A shower is great for rinsing shampoo out of our hair because of the velocity that results from the higher pressure. A shower head would be a lousy way to fill a bathtub, though, because it would take a lot longer than using the tub sprout. Water saver shower heads. There are currently lots of water saver fixtures on the market, including water saver shower heads. These simply have smaller and or fewer holes than conventional shower heads. As a result, they deliver slightly higher pressure, but less gallons per minute. They provide a nice hard shower without using as much water. What was the point of teaching me that? Just a water-saving tip, I suppose. More fixtures, more pressure drop, less flow. As more and more water is being used by various fixtures at one time, the worse will be the pressure and flow rate of water supply available at each fixture. The total water flow through the water entry pipe will increase with each additional fixture turned on. But all the other fixtures will suffer. Houses with more people and more bathrooms are likely to suffer from poor water supply. Jeez, I do a little bit of reading and I'm already yawning. Alright, pushing water uphill. Pushing water uphill requires energy. 0.434 psi to raise water 1 foot. Or 1 psi will raise water 2.31 feet. This will result in lower static pressure in upper stories or better basement showers. Alright, pushing water uphill. We've not yet talked about moving water vertically. Energy is required to move the water higher. It takes 0.434 psi to raise the water 1 foot. Conversely, 1 psi will raise water 2.31 feet. If water enters the basement at 60 psi static pressure, there will be 60 psi pressure near the basement floor. To move up through the basement, through the first floor, and to the shower on the second floor, we might have to push the water up 20 feet. This would result in a pressure loss of between 8 and 9 psi. Bracket 20 times 0.434. Lower static pressure on upper stories. If the static pressure at the basement is 60 psi, the static pressure at the second floor fixture is roughly 52 psi. Again, one can see how the profiles of water supply at fixtures in houses vary, depending on how high the fixture is. This helps explain why in the standards, or standards being capitalized, so I'm assuming that's the textbook I'm not buying, they asked us to test the plumbing fixtures at the highest point in the house. This is the toughest test because that's where the static pressure is lowest. It's usually also where the pipe length is greatest, from the source to the faucet. Basement showers work best. While people may not enjoy living in a basement apartment, at least they have the best water supply system in the house. Anyways, test water pressure at the highest point. Basement showers have the best pressure. And then there's just a diagram. Jesus, that's a lot to read also. Alright, summary. Factors affecting pressure/flow. Distribution piping and size, galvanized piping and rust, obstruction or closed valves. Causes of poor pressure/flow. The water supply may be less than ideal for a number of reasons. These reasons may apply to the service piping that brings the water from the city main to the house, bracket, or from the well, lake, river to the house, and to the distribution piping within the house. The causes include 1. Undersized piping. In some old houses, the supply piping diameter may be as small as 3/8 inch. In new houses, 3/4 inch is considered minimum. In large houses or houses with more than 3 bathrooms, many jurisdictions call for a 1-inch pipe. The pipe diameter often is reduced once the water splits up into a hot and cold distribution system. For example, a 3/4 inch line may come into the house and run to the outlet of water heater. In the past, it was quite common to find the outlet of the water heater reduced to 1/2 inch diameter, and the rest of the cold water distribution piping might even be 1/2 inch diameter as well. This was a common and acceptable arrangement in the past, but today most municipalities will not allow more than 2 fixtures on a 1/2 inch pipe. Since most residential properties have at least 1 bath, 1 kitchen, and 1 laundry, a 1/2 inch distribution pipe leaving the water heater would be unacceptable today. People who are adding in accessories, basements, or other supplementary dwelling units also need to consider upgrading their plumbing because of the additional fixtures. 2. Rusted piping. Galvanized steel piping is notorious for rusting on the interior. It will eventually leak through, usually at the treated joints and caused leakage. But before this, the water pressure will drop. The rough surface creates lots of friction loss, and the accumulation of rust on the inside of the pipe restricts the flow by reducing the diameter of the pipe. Some people say you have to replace all of the pipe to make a difference. That's not true. For every foot of pipe that is replaced, you will enjoy some improvement in pressure flow. If someone is only going to replace some of the piping, it makes sense to do the horizontals, which tend to rust more quickly than the risers, vertical pipes. It also makes more sense to do the hot water piping before the cold water piping, since the rusting is a chemical reaction which goes more quickly at higher temperatures. 3. Obstructions. There may be obstructions in the pipe itself. Obstructions can be lodged in valves. Water meters, pressure regulators, water softeners, and other treatment devices all present obstructions to flow and contract foreign materials. A partially closed valve presents an obstruction to water flow. Piping that is crimped, whatever that means, or mechanically damaged effectively reduces the pipe diameter and the flow of water. Kinked, flexible supply lines can cause low pressure at faucets. Alright, 4. Leaking. If the water entry pipe is leaking outside the house, the flow and pressure inside the home will be reduced. In most cases, this will be noticed. But if the water leaking from the pipe is carried away quickly from free draining soil or a storm sewer, for example, this may go undetected. 5. Excess pipe length. The amount of pressure drop is dependent on pipe length. The longer the pipe, the more pressure loss there will be due to friction as the water flows through the pipe. Houses set well back from the street. Okay, took me a second to really take that in. Houses set well back from the street or a considerable distance from a well, river, or lake, for example, may have low water pressure because of the long supply piping runs. The distribution piping runs in the house can be long as well, further reducing flow and pressure available at the faucets. Elbows and T's are each equivalent to several feet of pipe. Convoluted systems suffer as a result. 6. Losses due to elevation. Houses built well above street level and or at the top of a hill may have lower pressure and flow than houses near the bottom of a hill or houses built below street level. We have talked already about how we lose pressure when pushing water uphill. The static pressure will be slightly less on the second story than it is on the first. Pressure on the third floor will be slightly lower than on the second. Alright, service entrance piping. Oh my god, there's so much to read. Holy shit, there's so much to read. Service piping, water entry pipes, copper, galvanized steel, lead, PVC plastic, CPVC plastic, polybutylene plastic, cast iron, asbestos cement, brass, cross-linked polyethylene, polyethylene, Christ. Cross-linked polyethylene / aluminum / cross-linked polyethylene, bracket PEX-AL-PEX. I don't know what that is. Well, each of these have a description, so I'm gonna find out. Alright, service piping, water entry piping, in brackets. Love cancerous materials. A, they give us our clean water. This is the piping that leads from the city main to the house. In most cases, it is not visible except very close to or inside the house walls. In modern construction, the piping is typically 3/4 inch for a single family home. In some areas, it is common to go 1 inch pipe. Common to go to 1 inch pipe if there are more than 3 bathrooms in the house. The largest pipe size commonly used for single family homes is 1/2 inch. Some older houses have 3/8 inch diameter piping. 1/2 inch diameter piping was common in many areas up to the 1960s. Alright, copper. Copper is one of the most common water service piping materials. Copper piping was first used in the 1930s. When used underground, it is usually the soft-tempered copper tube that is used. Copper comes in various wall thicknesses. Type K, bracket thick wall, is often used underground. Copper water service pipes work well except in high acidic soils. Color. Copper is a blunt orange color, although it can be green or blue if it has oxidized, bracket corroded. The copper laid in trenches is usually tubing and is not perfectly straight. It comes in coils. Joints. The joints are typically soldered. There's an L in the word soldered. Did I say word? Whatever. There's a letter L in the word soldered. Although compression fittings are occasionally used. Pros and cons. This is generally considered a good material because it is smooth and corrosion resistant. It is, however, soft and can be easily crimped or mechanically damaged. As we mentioned, it is vulnerable to acidic soils. It's also not great at withstanding freezing. If water in a copper pipe freezes, it usually either splits the pipe or blows fittings apart. Alright. Lead-free solder, or lead, I'm gonna say lead. As a result of the health concerns about lead in drinking water, the amount of lead permitted in solder, was dramatically reduced in the 1980s. The lead content of solder is now typically restricted to 2/10 of 1% or 0.002. Solder is now primarily tin and antimony. Alright, that was a lot of stuff just to say about copper. Alright, galvanized steel. Galvanized steel was very common in some areas up until the 1950s. It is not commonly used now except for repairs and on larger commercial and industrial buildings. In some areas, the minimum size of galvanized steel piping used was 1 1/4 inch diameters. Pros and cons. The steel piping is very strong, but rusts both on the outside and inside. Color and connections. Galvanized steel piping is perfectly straight, rigid, and has a gray/silver appearance. The galvanizing (zinc coating) gives a flaked look to the exterior of the piping. Galvanized steel has threaded connections. Lead. Lead has not been used commonly as water service piping since about 1950. It was never commonly used as a supply piping inside homes. Joints are made by sweating the connections, resulting in bulbous egg-shaped joints. Sweated lead joints are typically white and soldered, which is usually about 40% tin and 60% lead. Pros and cons. Lead is very resistant to corrosion. Lead has the disadvantage of being soft and relatively weak. It has to be very well supported. More recently, health concerns have arisen with lead piping. The possibility of lead getting into the potable... Yep, it says potable. The possibility of lead getting into the potable water is a concern in many communities. In many areas, the conventional wisdom is not to drink water that has been sitting in lead piping for some time. Some people say for as little as 6 to 8 hours. If people have been away from the home, many health authorities recommend running the water for 5 minutes before using any water for drinking or cooking. An evaluation of the health hazard due to the lead, if any, in water supply piping is beyond the scope of a standard inspection. You should, however, be aware that it may be an issue for some of your clients. If the house was built prior to 1940, or if the lead is visible at the service entrance, you can recommend testing for lead content in the water supply. I don't know why it's spaced like this. Color and texture. Lead is a dull gray color, although it is bright and shiny if you scratch the surface of it. You can scratch lead piping with your fingernail. It's typically very soft and can be bent over a reasonably small radius without crimping. Elbows aren't normally used with lead piping. It's a high-density material, so lead pipe is very heavy. Alright, PVC plastic. PVC, or polyvinyl chloride, piping can be used as water service piping. It's typically light blue or white. It is rigid. It is a rigid plastic, and the joints are typically solvent welded. PVC piping is only suitable for cold water use. It has been in use since the late 1960s. All right, C PVC plastic, or chlorinated polyvinyl chloride piping is typically cream colored, and it is suitable for use in both hot and cold water systems. The joints are solvent welded on this rigid material. It has been in use since the late 1960s. Why is Tornadus not shiny yet? Polybutylene Polybutyllene. Polybutylene, or PB, piping used for water services is typically blue, although the PB piping used in distribution piping systems inside the house is gray. PB piping cannot be solvent welded. Plastic and copper mechanical fittings have been used, and there have been failures in some areas with the mechanical fittings. PB has been used since the late 1970s. This is a flexible piping material. PB cannot be affected by freezing and has good corrosion resistance. It also stands up well to acidic soils. All right. Nope, this one's spelled slightly differently. Polyethylene, or PE piping is typically black and is most commonly used on private systems with wells and pumps. For example, it may not perform well under high pressure situations, and although it is flexible, polyethylene piping is susceptible to mechanical abrasion problems. It has been in use since the 1960s. It is typically connected with steel band clamps. Polyethylene piping is permitted on water service piping, but not inside homes in some jurisdictions. Polyethylene cannot be used on hot water systems. Polyethylene piping is flexible and is similar to a radiator hose, although not easily distorted. Cross-linked polyethylene, or PEX. PEX is typically white, blue, or red for domestic water systems. Blue and red identifies the hot and cold lines, but the pipe is the same. Metal clamp rings with insert fittings and compression type systems are used to connect pipe to fittings. Another system expands the pipe first before inserting a fitting. The pipe shrinks over the fitting, and then a plastic ring is installed. Manifold systems like... Oh my god, I'm getting so lost reading this. Manifold systems like those used with PB are also popular with PEX. The material has been extensively used since the 1990s for both plumbing and heating applications. Though very similar, crimp-type PB fittings are not the same as PEX fittings and are not interchangeable. Pipe and fitting failures have been reported with some brands. Alright, this one's a big one. I'll probably just finish this little paragraph and call it for tonight. Cross-linked polyethylene / aluminum / cross-linked polyethylene in bracket PEX-AL-PEX. Aluminum Aluminum lining is sandwiched between layers of PEX. The aluminum acts as an oxygen barrier which can help protect steel and iron from rusting. This material is used in radiant heating systems and in domestic water systems. PEX is typically blue or orange. PEX fittings are the same as PEX. There have been class action lawsuits around PEX piping. Check the internet for current information in your area. Alright, tracers needed on plastic service piping. In many jurisdictions, metallic tracer wires Metallic tracer wires must be used on plastic service wires to help locate the buried pipes. Rare materials. Cast iron, brass, and asbestos cement water service piping are rare. Brass water service piping Brass water service piping will predate 1935. Brass, which is an alloy of copper and zinc, was used for service piping in some areas in the 1920s. The red brass, which was about 85% copper, is a better quality than the yellow brass, which was about 65% copper. This rigid piping was threaded connections. This rigid piping uses threaded connections. Cast iron is rigid and is usually large diameter, typically 2 inches or larger. Asbestos cement piping is a pale gray and looks like cement with fibrous reinforcements. Wrap or paint of plastic piping. Plastic water and service piping. Wait, there's no and in there. Plastic water service piping should be wrapped where it is exposed to protect it from ultraviolet light, and insulating where necessary to protect it from the cold. In some jurisdictions where the service pipe is polybutylene or PB, polyethylene or PVC, the end of the piping has to be exposed inside the building for a distance of 12 to 18 inches. Latex paint can be used to protect plastic piping from ultraviolet light where the piping is not wrapped. Check valve with PVC. If a plastic such as PVC is used for a water service pipe, some authorities may require a check valve. That's because PVC is only good for cold water, and we don't want any hot water getting back into the PVC. This check valve turns the house supply plumbing into a closed system. Many authorities require an expansion tank at the water heater, a pressure relief valve on the supply piping, or another method to deal with the thermal expansion on closed systems. Alright, that is very little, but that's enough reading for me for one night. I didn't do as much note reading as last time, but leave me alone. One more encounter for tonight. Alright, see you next time.